embedded correspondent John Solberg, and you are listening to the BBQ Central Show.
Start the game! Let's go!
We'll do it live. Okay. Well, do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
So to get that perfect barbecue, you use wood. Are you sure it's safe? Whatever. We put the lighter fluid on, strike the match, and... Oh! Should we call the fire department? That might be a good idea.
Happy 4th of July and welcome to the really big BBQ Central Show. If you didn't know it, this is the show that talks about all things that are important in the world of barbecue and grilling. The show originating from the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city, Bomb City, USA, Cleveland, Ohio, the barbecue capital of the North Coast. I am your program host, Greg Rempe. Happy to have you aboard here on your Tuesday evening's live fire fun and frivolity show. If you want to get in contact with the show this evening, if you want to follow the show socially, here's how you do all of that.
You can get in touch with the show by sending an email to Greg at bbqcentralshow.com. Follow us on all the social media channels at BBQ Central Show. And be sure to subscribe to the show podcast feed on your favorite podcast platform.
Anything else you want to find out about the show can be found at the main website, thebbqcentralshow.com. And here's what's happening in case you can get the newsletter coming up in about 13 minutes from now. He is a multiple-time cookbook author. He is a barbecue TV competitor, a barbecue TV competition judge. He has judged many of the world-famous barbecue competitions that you know. The list goes on and on. Barbecue Hall of Famer, Barbecue Central Show's guest Hall of Famer, Dr. Barbecue Ray Lampe rejoins the show. Last time Ray was on, as you might recall, we were going at it with who had the better $200 pepper grinder. I think I won. Ray thinks he won. And we agreed to leave it there. We agree to disagree. We both agree that whichever one you thought was better, they were both going to be costing you $200, whether you like it or not. That is what we can 100% agree on. You like the Black Rain, you like the Pepper Cannon, either or, this one's $200, that one's $200. So there was no budget brand of pepper grinder that we were dealing with. I can't come up with a word here this evening. So Ray Lampe will be joining us. He's got rubs out. He is going to be on TV. He has thoughts on a bunch of other things that are going on in the industry. Maybe you follow him socially. You saw him put out a post about him, and I'm paraphrasing, he's open and looking for work. What does that mean? Why do you make that post? Do you get any benefit from doing that? Plenty to talk about. So that'll be Ray Lampe, first hour, actually, and then we'll move to the second hour because it is the first Tuesday of a month in the second hour. You know who we're visiting. Sam, the cooking guy. Even though it is the 4th of July. By the way, this is not pre-recorded. This is actually happening live and local, late breaking. A real live show on a holiday. We've done it before. We'll do it again. I'm not a fireworks guy per se, so I don't care that I'll be missing out on all of them. And if you are, listen to the first hour of the show and then go ahead and gallivant all across the counties that you live in to go find your local fireworks displays. And then come back and catch the last 30 minutes of the show, because I think fireworks last like 20 minutes. But I'm happy to have you, whatever it looks like. So Sam is in for one segment, and then he's got fireworks to go watch. And after Sam, 35 past the second hour, we have another open segment, which is great because I have at least a crap load of things to get to. So that's how the show's laying out. Dr. Barbecue first hour and Sam the cooking guy in the second hour. And your emails and social media reactions to me as I can fit them in. You can follow me socially, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Snapchat at BBQ Central Show. We say good evening to those of you watching through one of our video streaming platforms. You can go to Facebook or Twitch/BBQ Central Show. You can also watch on YouTube as well, which is youtube.com/@BBQ Central Show. And yes, we do have a new YouTube poll question of the week, and here it is. I'm asking you this evening. 20 years from now, in 2043, lab-grown meat will be how the majority of meat is produced in the world. 86% of you are saying nope. I think that's a little short-sighted, 86% of you. I thought maybe we would see a closer to 50-50 split here at the rip. However, as we do each and every show here over the last however long we've been running YouTube poll question of the week, we'll ask both the guests here this evening, and we'll see how this poll ends up at the end of the second hour. By the way, I forget what the poll question of the week was last week. Was it the Did You Know Byron Chisholm? I think it was. And maybe it wasn't. It didn't break any closer to 50-50. I was hoping it would have been, 80-90% of the folks did, but it was closer than I liked, but that's how it ended up last week. So that's the question tonight. Over the next 20 years, 20 years from now, lab-grown meat will be the majority of meat that is produced in the world. I'm going with yes. That's how the majority of it is going to be. Remember, 20 years from now. Can you imagine a 68-year-old Greg Rempe from Bomb City, USA? Welcome to Bomb City, USA. Happy 4th. I broke my hip later in the week. Oh, no, please, no. 20 years from now, the 68-year-old host will be jumping on the internet airwaves. Maybe. I want to start here this evening, and I want to thank Annie and, of course, cult show favorite neighbor Desmond for having us over for 4th of July this afternoon, the associated eating affair, and if I might say, holy crap, that was a lot of food. I made a pork butt all on my own, and it was like a 12-pound pork butt, so that can feed, if you're not eating like a complete fat ass, I can feed 15 to 20 people. And then when we got there, I thought there was going to be 50 people with all the amount of food that was sitting out there. And Andy said, no, it's just us. Maybe I thought some of the boyfriends were coming. I didn't even have my whole family. There was so much food. And then the eating began and it continued and it continued. And then Desmond made ribs and wings. I made pork butt. Holy crap, there was a lot of pork. None of the basics, all high-level stuff here for us experts of the live fire industry and celebrities of the internet. But gosh, that was a lot of food. Had to take a quick nap when I got home so I could be fresh and ready for Dr. Barbecue and for Sam the cooking guy. So thank you to Annie and Desmond for having us over. Now, to the delight of many, a new cat piss story shooting up last week has really hit the spot. Now, I must say, a few skeptical fans have asked if this is something that I might be making up and then dropping it into the mix just for fun and comedy. And of course, the simple answer to that is no. I might lie about a lot of things, mostly everything. I am not going to lie about cats pissing in my house. First of all, that's gross, and it's nothing to joke about. This is a real-life matter, and it's coming to a head this Friday. As we know, 8:30 this Friday, we have a vet appointment. We don't know if that fat cat is even going to make it to the vet alive, but if it does, it could be life or death for the cat. I will continue with every fiber of my being, as I hope you do, to wish for cat death along with me. So please send me your morbidly positive death thoughts over the week so we can drop from 4 cats to 3 cats leading into the weekend. That would be great. What a great send-off for me, dropping from 4 to 3. Come on, gang, let's see if we can't pull this off together. What do you say? Let's all think positively morbid thoughts and then push them to Bomb City, USA so we can get rid of one of these cats. And by the way, you should find it particularly offensive at this cat because he tried to single-handedly take the show off the internet with his indiscriminate pissing on all sorts of high-level electronics that help me connect into the internet. Remember, if I don't have A, the internet, there's no show, and B, if I don't have the stuff to connect onto the internet to then produce a show, there's no show. So this cat needs to head for the hills, if you know what I mean. And by that I mean cat heaven. You think there's cat heaven? Or is that what you call the backyard? I'm not taking that thing home. If that thing doesn't make it back with me on Friday, the vet's keeping it and do whatever you do with it. I don't want it. Well, Dr. Barbecue is ready to go. I can tell you that. He's ready to give me a rousing 2 segments here on the 4th of July. If you're just joining us, welcome in. Happy birthday, America. Back-to-back World War champions. How about that? Are you tired of settling for mediocre grilling experiences? Did you learn that today? Did you say, you know what? This was a great day. The weather where we were at was great. But in the end, my live fire experience was mediocre at best. Well, let's step up the barbecue and grilling game and bring the ultimate flavor and the ultimate cooker to your backyard starting tomorrow. Pick up the phone, hit the internet, go over to Pits and Spits, and tell them you are ready for the charcoal grill that's going to change your life. Highest quality materials, we know this. Live fire cooking experience. It's the best that you can get in the market today. Using either wood or charcoal, these solid fuel grills produce those classic flavors that you're looking for when the time has come to fire up the grill and cook for family and friends, like today. By the way, it sucks that July 4th is Tuesday, middle of the week. Hey, with a large adjustable fuel tray, you can raise and lower the fire to control and fine-tune the heat temps. It's kind of their take on the very popular Santa Maria style grill, except there's a hood and looks super nice. You know, they use all that shiny stainless down there in Pits and Spits. And the best part, in 5 years from now, you're not casting it aside and trying to figure out how much more you're going to be spending on a new one. No. This one will last your life, and it will also last your kid's life, or if you gift it to somebody else, it will last their life. All of a sudden, not only have you taken advantage of a great piece, it has become an heirloom piece that's going to be in your family for generations and generations. So you go to pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central and then use promo code Charcoal Central, all one word, Charcoal Central, for $150 off any charcoal grill that they sell. Easy enough. Pitsandspits.com, that's double T on the pits and the spits. That's pitsandspits.com/BBQ Central and then code Charcoal Central. Save $150 off a Pits and Spits charcoal cooker and tell them the Barbecue Central show sent you if you're calling in. We're back with Ray Lampe right after this. Stick around.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Broadcasting live from the Barbecue Central Show studios in Cleveland, Ohio. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
Hey, welcome back. This portion of the show is being brought to you by cookinpellets.com, your number one source for quality hardwood pellets for all your pellet-driven cookers. Visit cookinpellets.com to decide the flavor or mix that you want, and then go to Amazon.com or Lowe's.com or Walmart.com for great shipping rates, along with the great pricing. It's the great folks over at cookinpellets.com. My first guest tonight and second guest tonight, appearing on the show since 2006, if you can believe it. As I'd mentioned in the open, an accomplished book author, appears on TV shows as both competitor and judge, a pitchman and a brand ambassador, Barbecue Hall of Famer, and most importantly than all of that, Barbecue Central Show's guest Hall of Famer. We welcome back Dr. Barbecue Ray Lampe. We have a YouTube poll question of the week, Ray, that I want to get your opinion on or get your answer and see where you weigh in on this. I'm asking folks this week, 20 years from now, lab-grown meat will be how the majority of meat is produced in this world, yes or no?
I'm going to go no.
Right?
But I think, we got a lot about that. I don't think it's a short-term thing. I think it's, I don't think we should goof about it. I think it's potentially a real thing. But will it ever beat, actual animals? I don't know. That's a long way off.
89% of the YouTube voting public are agreeing with Ray Lampe right now with no. And I have taken the opposite opinion on that. I've said, look, 20 years from now, your spry, handsome, humble host will be 68 years old. I can't imagine I'll be doing the show at 68, but you never know. That's a long time from now. 20 years ago, I was 28. A lot of things have happened in 20 years, and that could happen in 20 years. In fact, so much so that so I did a story last week about this cellularly cultivated chicken that just last week was introduced into a restaurant right here in the United States. I don't know if you saw the article. I think I posted about it on my Facebook fan page. But some high-level chef brought it in, is very keen on sustainability and the environment and harm to animals and all this other stuff. And then, the next day, there was something about a company called Stakeholder, ironic name, of course, and they are making cellularly cultivated beef. And they're 3D printing this beef. I read a whole article about Netanyahu is out there in Israel watching this whole thing take place. He eats it, says it's great. I'm sure it's a photo op like anything else. However, I've reached out to these folks, and we're trying to put together a segment here on this show to talk about it. I think if we're this far advanced into getting cells, look, I'm as dumb as they come, right? So I don't know exactly how this works, but I imagine in my simple mind, I'm sticking a needle into a live animal of some sort, extracting cells of some sort, and then people way smarter than me are able to grow that. Not as necessarily a cut as we have become accustomed to aesthetically, but it's the meat, it's the protein, and then they shape it through a dye or however the hell they're doing it. And for all intent, this isn't Beyond Meat or Impossible Burger or whatever the hell you're talking about. This is real ass meat, not fake. And with all the other stuff, electric cars on the road and cultivated meat and better environment. This is a press that has been happening. I don't think it's going away. And in 20 years, I think we could be seeing the majority of meat being produced in labs or being cultivated. Sorry for the long wind.
I'm sort of, it's an interesting point of view. I'm stuck on the exceeding meat. Will it be 40% of the market? Will it, you know what I mean? I don't know. I think it's coming. And we got to be realistic about this kind of stuff. We're not going to be able to feed everybody on earth with our traditional ways of doing it. And we need to look at things like this. We really do. And I think it'll succeed, but will it surpass live animal meat, within 20 years? That's a big lift, because it's probably not going to be we're not going to see it at the supermarket for at least 5 years and maybe 10. You know how these things are. They talk about it long before it's actually viable. So I think that's where I'm a stickler on, is it going to surpass it? And now, if is it going to surpass it someday? Probably. I would agree with that. But the thing that I think about is aquaculture. Like, fish farms are becoming such a big deal, and it's really important because we're obviously raping the ocean, so there's not going to be any fish left. So and we're building condos everywhere, certainly in my neighborhood, so there's not going to be enough room for cows and pigs either.
I believe a portion of what the Stakeholder company, and I'm going to talk more about it in the second hour, is doing is cellularly cultivating fish as well. They were covering all the major proteins, the beef, the chicken, and the fish. and it's happening. So now, to live in hypocrisy, which is the city I live in here, I'm wondering, how does this then affect, or what lobbies will then rise up and go, hey, this all sounds great, but my friends, the cattle ranchers, or my friends, the chicken farmers, or fishermen, or fisheries, or whatever the hell you call them, you do this, these guys are going to be out of a job. This is all they've ever known. It's generations of business. What are we going to do with what they have? And I don't know how I feel about that, because certainly I don't want to take work or a generational farm or a way of living away from anybody. But as you said, for a society, and I'm only looking at it from the United States because I'm myopic, we consume like crazy with blatant disregard for how it's actually going to affect long term. The effects are going to be felt way after I'm gone. So, I talk about it, but I'm not feeling it. But 2, 3, 4 generations down the road, they could be really feeling it. And maybe this is something that really helps turn the tables the other way.
Well, one of the things that's going to happen, it's until it can be at least competitively priced, which is probably a long way off.
Right.
It's not going to be viable. One thing that, matter of fact, I got a pound at my freezer. I just looked at bison. I really like bison. It's fun to cook with, just kind of like a cow. Really, it's not that different. It's a little richer. But until bison gets kind of the same price as ground beef, nobody's going to take it seriously. It remains that novelty. So they're going to have to get competitively priced, and my guess is that's a long way off.
Well, that was going to be my last statement, was if I can land these folks for an interview, the boilerplate question is, all this makes me feel great, and maybe you say you can get it to market inside of that 20 years that we're talking about here this evening. But if steak now goes to $70 a pound for, whatever the choice grade comparable meat is going to be, then, as you say, it's not going to fly anywhere. It's just going to be something that you can say you attempted, and until you can get it to commodities prices or generate it in commodities product and style, then this is going to be something that people talk about. I remember when, but maybe it never comes to fruition. So lots to talk about and to follow on that topic. I wanted to get your take or recap on the most recent Barbecue Hall of Fame class. 2023's class has been in, and of course we know that Darren Worth is in, Byron Chisholm is in. He was on the show for the first time a couple weeks ago. Flora Payne.
Oh yeah, how was that?
It was so I've known about Byron since 2006, like when I was on the barbecue forum and I would see him there and read what he was saying, but I'd never talked to him, so it was great. I had done a bunch of research on him prior to coming on, so I had learned, and then he shared the link on his autobiography kind of documentary that's on YouTube as well, and it was nice to get a full picture to be able to help me interview him. But man, he was just as a guy has sold $50 million worth of rub in his career over 24 years, and he might as well live right next to me. Just salt of the earth, very honest. His candor was incredible, and it was a great interview. Somebody who knows him very well, like you do, I'm sure it's no surprise.
Yeah, that's Byron for sure. He doesn't love the limelight. He's done it, we did some of the TV shows with us in the early days because he understands the value of it. But he'd rather just be sitting at home drinking a beer, petting his dog, and not deal with all of this. He does. I've always felt with Byron, he does the bare minimum that he has to, and he does a good job of it when he does. But he really has played by his own rules for a long time. So when we were talking about Byron in the Hall of Fame committee, I'm on the nominating committee. I believe I said something to the effect of, this may be the most qualified candidate that we've ever had in front of us, because Byron he is absolutely a student and a complete respect to the old school barbecue. If you go to his house in Tennessee, he's got like a pit like they have at Kreitz Market built in, and he's got another one like at Tennessee, and he's got the original pit.
Yep.
When I met him in 2004 or whatever it was, he's got it sitting there in Mulberry. I mean, he's definitely a student of the whole what real barbecue is. He had a stellar competition career, none better, and he built this product. So this is a guy that trademarked butt rub before anybody kind of really knew what that meant, right? I mean, now you would never be able to trademark that because butts and rub are commonplace in our well, you know, the butts were always a thing, but you know what I mean? This was way ahead of his time kind of stuff. He was the first guy to change his team name to buttrub.com because he saw what was happening with the internet. I mean, he's a smart man, has done so much in the world. And to this day, I saw him at Jack Daniels, and he had a dog that he had gotten from the pound, and he had the dog living at his house as a foster just so he could find a new owner for this dog. Drake was his name. The dog found a new owner in Germany or something, and they shipped the dog with some people that were over at the Jack I don't know if it's Germany, but whatever. The story is not hard to find. And the dog moved to Germany because Byron just rented, got him and fostered out for the weekend. I mean, he's a good man.
Do you think I'm not looking to try and circle around to give you a pat on the back here, but do you think if you're not on the names committee that his name is left off for a good while, or perhaps it's just not ever mentioned as a name that should be considered?
Not Byron. I don't think so. I think this will lead me right into Sweet Baby Ray. These guys have both done so much, and it's so high profile that I don't think so. It's an interesting question because I do. It's really the committee's really great. I really enjoy it because I was just looking at the list before we came on, and Flora Payne is not somebody I know. I don't know her. I know her story. I know where her restaurant is. I've never met her. I've never been there. But there's guys on the committee that are big fans because they're more historian. Columbus Hill, one of our legacy inductees this year. I'm not familiar with him. Contrary to, he was from the 1900s. Yep. Contrary to popular belief, I hadn't started quite then yet. But there's guys on the committee that are big fans and know the whole story as soon as you bring it up. So there are guys that I go to bat for, certainly. Darren, and Darren Worth might be more the guy that might have been overlooked because he's so much of a competition cook. I mean, he runs a big, busy restaurant, too. I can tell you that one of the things we often bring up in the committee is, okay, he's really good at that. What else did he do? And because Darren has had probably the best competition career before it's over. He's going to be the man. He already is. But he also has a big, busy restaurant that they built from the ground up there in Iowa and products business and all of that as well. So Darren is the kind of guy in my mind anyway, that might be overlooked. Byron, I don't know, man. I think he's way more famous than we realize.
Could I make an argument if we're talking about those three in a vacuum, that being Darren, Byron, and Dave Raymond? Could I say that Dave is the least of the three qualified? Sauce makes the business, but I don't know him to be a great barbecue competitor. I'm sure he's philanthropic to a degree, but I don't know anything about that. And I don't know anything outside of him coming to the sauce business and then exploding it and being, I would love to have just that and have that be my mark, of course. But if we're talking about a whole scope of other things, Darren has done all the things you had mentioned, plus very philanthropic as well. And, Byron might be the most well-rounded of the three, too, because as I was talking to him in the interview, I said, geez, you're probably one of the few that found a rub. You realized you needed to go to market. You found out about the competition circuit, and you started showing up there and selling it. And then you said, geez, maybe I should learn how to cook competition too, and that might give me a little bit more legitimacy. So he picked it up and became a dominant force. You said, I think he won 40 grand championships or something like that over the course of his competition career amongst numerous reserves and category wins, what have you. So to me, that was, incredibly impressive. So is that out of school for me to say, if we're looking at those three, the Dave is probably a little bit more pigeonholed into the one thing?
Yeah, I think that's fair. However, Dave's done other things. They do have a restaurant. They have a big catering business. He has mentored his nephew into being really a killer. He's running a great catering business and restaurant. He's given a lot of money away to good folks. And Dave really spearheaded the Illinois Barbecue Association, or whatever the formal name is. And what he would do is get all the local barbecue people, Barry Sorkin and Leanne when she was there, and Gary Wiviet and Dave himself, and get them together on a regular basis. And it really just to get to know each other and share a common cause and raise a little money for a charity. So he's done more than you. But I mean, yeah, I'd agree with you. I think, though, no matter who you are trying to look for this multifaceted thing, when it's Sweet Baby Ray, it kind of dwarfs everything.
Of course.
Now, there's another side to that story. The sauce was actually, and I don't know if you've had Dave on, but the sauce was actually created by his brother, Larry. Larry was a chef. And they went and did that together. And I don't know. I think they remained partners in the business till they. So all this stuff that Dave did that I just talked about that wasn't being Sweet Baby Ray's, he did after he sold the company, because he was busy running a company back then. And then he had some time and some money to play around and explore some of the other stuff in barbecue. But Dave, someone asked me, well, shouldn't Larry be the guy or the combination or something? And I can tell you from personal knowledge, Dave was nominated by Deuce, who's his nephew. Larry's son, you know what I'm saying? Larry's son nominated Dave to be the guy because he is the face of Sweet Baby Ray's.
Ray Lampe joining us here on the show, drbbq.com, his website. Let's switch it up here a little bit. We'll stay on the product side here. As somebody who has been in it, this barbecue game, as long as you have, Ray, you've had products here and there, but nothing that has, stuck in the long term. Your name, your face, your brand has been around, but the product's not so much. And recently, you released 4 new rubs into the market. You have a Chicago steak and chop rub. You have a garlic and herb Italian beef rub. Chicago call out, of course. Peach Chipotle rub and the Nashville hot chicken rub. Why now? Why are you bringing rubs out now?
So I did. I was one of the original guys selling rub in the 90s, the early 90s, my Bone Smokers rub that people still always ask about. But I've been real open about that. It was a private label product. I knew I wanted to sell something because, we just saw what was going on and maybe there would be something to sell. And I used this rub, and it was from a butcher shop locally. Well, it turned out it was made by a company called F.W. Witt, which was later bought by Newlywed Foods. And this was their 1862 or something product. So I went there to talk to the guy about making a rub, and he said, you can do that, but I've got all these rubs here that we already make that are proven good quality stuff, and you can just put your label on it, and you can buy it 10 cases at a time. And so all I had to do was buy some labels, and I bought and I believe it was $18 a case. So for $180 and some labels, I was in the business.
Yeah.
So I did that. Now, the problem was, as it grew, it really became popular. I can't tell you how much of it we shipped to the Netherlands for some God unknown reason. Those guys still, till recently, were calling me about it. Was it available again? But it was loaded with MSG, and I didn't have the recipe. So the MSG, I'm not too bothered by that. There's a lot of barbecue products these days that still have a lot of MSG in them. I wasn't too worried about that, but I really didn't have the recipe. And a couple times I tried to match it with other packers. They couldn't do it. So I let that one go a long time ago, and it was a mistake that the way I started it. And then I had my original barbecue sauce and some other products, and I had a partner at the time, and she kind of melted down in the way she was doing her business, and it just didn't work for me anymore. So, and I didn't want to do it myself, so I let it go that time. And then some of these products, the Nashville chicken rub I made about 5-6 years ago, and we used it at the restaurant. But when I I guess it was longer than that because I was still working for Big Green Egg. They didn't want me to be in the food products business because they had food products and they were paying me pretty well. And then in the restaurant, we were using salt and pepper on almost everything. So I still couldn't do it. I mean, this is a project I've been holding off. So it's more that I had the opportunity to do it. But don't underestimate what I see what's going on out there. You know, the barbecue rub business has blown up into a significant category, and it's not, you know, why wouldn't you want to be part of that? So it's a long story. It's a pretty complicated thing, but it's definitely a late in life project.
The Bone Smokers Rub or Bone Smugglers Rub, whatever it was, did you offer to buy the recipe and they were just disinterested in selling you the recipe?
I never did. At the time, they were still in business. They were just kind of shelving that one product through the distributor that I was had to go to. So I used to go get it at the factory, and then they had a knife company in Chicago that was the distributor, and I would have to go get it from them. And so I don't really know what happened. I never did try to track down trying to buy it. I guess I just always assumed it would be more money than I wanted to spend on it.
So for these rubs, who are you contacting, or do you already have a relationship with a co-packer that you can just turn to and say, I'm ready to turn the switch on, I already have recipes and this and that, let's start making samples?
Yeah, it was really easy. A guy named Greg Watkins, the Sauceology Group right here in Clearwater. I've known Greg for 20 years. He used to be a pretty serious competition cook and always been in the seasoning and sauce business, co-packing. And he started his own company probably 10 years ago. And he's been making my Nashville chicken rub for 5-6 years. Like I said, that we did use at the restaurant, small batches, and it was just an occasional thing. But I always stayed in touch, and I knew if I wanted to do it, I would go to Greg. One of the problems with these things, if you don't find a local guy, shipping will eat you up before you get it out, before you even get it to anybody. So having a local guy is really good. And then Nicole from Whiskey Bent, I ran into her, and they're all friends, and they're actually moving in together into a building, the two businesses, and they're all friends of mine. And I didn't really want to handle the product myself. So she said, well, I'll be your distributor. So it was a perfect, easy deal for me. And here's what I'll tell you to do. And I did this with Greg. Just because you've made this secret rub and you've got the perfect recipe at home, it's going to be different when they convert it to a 500-pound batch. The cayenne that they have might not be the same. Honey powder might be way too expensive, and so on. You got to let the guy do his job. Here's my original recipe. This is what I want it to do. But you tell me what it should really be. So unfortunately, you kind of don't really own your formula, but you end up with a good product that way. It's always a problem if you try to switch co-packers. But if you try to fight the guy, these guys know what they're doing. They can tell you almost exactly what percentage of salt pretty much any barbecue rub should be. Can you? I can't. And he knew immediately what the right amount of rub or salt was.
It seems to be the eternal question or back and forth when I'm talking to folks like you that are getting into this business, where you have a recipe. As you said, you haven't scaled it up to 500 or half a ton or whatever. And the bigger or more important thing that you said was the cayenne that you're using from Mom and Joe's Pop Store is different than what they're going to be using. So there could be 5, 6, 7 different same items, different manufacturers, different tastes. So it's off. When do you decide you aren't going to stand your ground because it doesn't taste like what you want it to taste like? Do you have to make a sacrifice in the end that it's just close enough? And are you okay with that?
For me, it's not about. I go in with flexibility in mind because I know how these things go, and that I can only do so much to make it perfect to what I want. But I also, again, have to be respectful to, this is the guy that makes everybody else's rubs or a lot of other rubs. So he knows way more about it than you do. So you got to go in flexible. My attitude always is we need to end up with something that's really good. So whether it's exactly what I had in mind or exactly what I made at my house or exactly what I started out visualizing, as long as we end up with something that was really good and we're all happy with it, I'm okay with that. Now, the trick for me there, because before you start marketing it, you can change it however you want. Once it hits the market, now you can't change it. Mm-hmm. So I'm very flexible until we put it in the jar the first time, and then it's got to stay exactly the same. So if the second batch is not like the first, that's a big problem, and we're gonna have to fix that. But in general, these guys, that's what they do. They're good at it.
What are you hoping for in the next 2 to 5 years as far as success of it?
I haven't really. I'm not a business plan kind of guy. Might have served me better in my life if I was, but my goal was to get it profitable right away. So it's profitable already. Now I can't. I'm not quitting my other jobs, but it's already in the good, and let it fund itself. And if something big should pop up, I'll put some money into it. So that was my attitude from there. Let's just let it kind of, now it's on its own. It's going to live. It's got its own little bank account, and let's see what happens. My ultimate goal, it's a different position. I'll just turned 66. So it's a different position. If in 3 years this can be, I don't know, what's the number, 5,000 a month? I mean, I don't know if that's possible, but something like that. I could quit doing everything else and just retire. So that's how I'm looking at it for me from that sort of business. If I could get it to be enough with everything else I got going on, but that I could quit all my other jobs and just kind of be a retired guy, that'd be pretty nice. Unfortunately, I haven't had like a nice career with a big 401k. And so retirement kind of looks the same as the rest of my life. So, but that's okay. What else would I do?
Do you think you would add more products onto this, or is it going to be this 4 and we'll steamroll ahead?
No, I'll add more. I'm really looking at the market and seeing what people are doing, and 4 is really minimal compared to what most of the successful guys seem to be doing. I tend to think a lot of it is too many, because at some point it's got to cannibalize itself. Yeah, a guy's coming in and he may want to buy 3 bottles of rub today, but he's not going to buy 8. So he's going to buy 3. I mean, at some point, I think these become almost vanity projects, that you just, you want to do some more product. That's the fun part, the product development. But I suspect I'll do a couple more over the next year, maybe. I don't have any great interest in barbecue sauce. It's just so much more of a challenge. And I think that's why we're seeing, trust me, the product guys are happy that we can do less sauce. It used to be you had to start with sauce and then add some rubs, and it's just not like that anymore. Sauce is heavier, it freezes, it breaks, it spoils. Rubs are pretty, and rubs are also a lot easier to get done in small batches.
Ray, can I hold you off here just for a moment while I do a quick piece of business? We'll come back and pick up the conversation.
Yep.
All right, stand by. We're talking with Dr. Barbecue Ray Lampe, and you had questions about getting into the rub business. I'm sure he just answered a whole bunch of questions for you. So always appreciate the insight on that part of the business. Being a new Primo grill owner as I am, yes, I can tell you that everything I've been talking about are things that I've liked over the last 2 or 3 cooks that I have fired this Primo up on. What do we love about the ceramic cooker? Well, 1, they're fuel efficient. As someone who has had first-hand experience as lately as overnight last night, where I fired it up for a 2 pork butt cook for the cannibalization earlier this afternoon over at Andy and Desmond's house. Locked it in, ran at 250 I put them on at 10 o'clock at night. I think I should have put them on later, but I was anxious. So I put them on at 10, checked it at 6 a.m. The thing was still purring. It didn't knock a titch. And then I foiled them up, finished them off. They were 180. Wanted to steam them up a little bit, make them real nice and tender, capture all the juice, so I cooked in pans. And by 11 o'clock, they were ready to roll and had hardly used half of the charcoal load that I had. So, proof is in the pudding. Fuel misers is what I typically call them. And then just for fun, I spooled open the top vent, kicked open the bottom vent, and watched that thing started to rifle up. And as soon as that thing gets momentum, that thing was over 500 degrees inside of 25 or 30 minutes. So going from a 250 start time, or start temp. So it's doing it. It's doing the low and slow. It's doing the high heat. And then, of course, you have that oval design, which makes it different than everything else. All the other ceramic cookers out there on the market round, which is not great for a 2-zone fire because it's round, but the oval design has a nice little divider in the middle, so you can make a 2-zone fire if that's what you like. And they have the accessories, of course, the Primo Grill rotisserie, the Primo Grill pizza accessory. Both I have those. I'll be trying those here shortly. And they have all sorts of accessories that are being released at breakneck speed right now. Only sold through dealers, primogrill.com. Find a dealer near you. Find the oval that best fits your needs. And then you're off and running. primogrill.com. Follow them on Facebook. Follow them on Instagram. That's primogrill.com, Nick Bauer and the gang over there. And we thank them for sponsoring the show. We're back with Dr. Barbecue right after this. Stick around.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
Hey, we welcome you back. By the way, if you're just coming in through YouTube right now, don't forget to answer the YouTube poll question of the week. 20 years from now, lab-grown meat will be how the majority of meat is produced in the world, and currently 85% of you now are saying no. You don't believe that will be the thing 20 years from now, but we'll see about that. And we're joined by Ray Lampe once again here. Ray, appreciate you hanging with me through the break. So I was talking about Primo Grill there in the read. That's part of the category that is ceramic cookers. I would dare say that few know ceramic cooker industry, such as you, having that long relationship that you had with Big Green Egg for 20 plus years or whatever it was, longer than 95% of actual marriages that even take place. So my question is this: for as great as they are, and being a new owner of ceramic cookers, once again, I had a kind of ceramic cooker many years ago, the Bubba Keg, which is ceramic cooker concepts and lighting and all that stuff, but now a Primo owner. The one thing that I have to say is where you look across all of the other sectors in this live fire industry, pellet cookers, gas grills, offsets, the ceramic cooker industry as a whole, or the sector as a whole, seems to be a little stale. And I'm wondering what can be done by the big three or the big four to unstale it, or make it more sexy, or have the millennial generation or the younger generation than that, who's that, Generation Z, I don't know, and say, hey, all this other stuff is cool, but man, these ceramic cookers, regardless of brand, is where it's at. What do they need to do?
Well, I think it's just the nature of business. To me, the growth was just insane for all those years. All the next ones came along. While I started working for Big Green Egg. They were in a strip mall. There was 6 employees. So I saw what happened, and I'm like to take a little credit for it. It can only go on like that for so long. You can't, you know what I mean? The growth at some point has to level out. And then it's your job to try to figure out how to get incremental growth that works. Look at like the Weber kettle. I'm sure they still have growth most years, but not like they did 30 years ago when it was all of a sudden becoming all the rage. And that's sort of what I think of the ceramic cookers. And, we've also watered it down. It was very much, Big Green Egg, and then even the guys that came along right away, Primo for sure, and the big who was the
Kamado
Linkletter
Joe
guy, that thing. It was premium high end stuff. We weren't trying to make it viable for the big box stores and trying to knock the price down. We were trying to knock the price up because it was this premium product. Well, once there's enough of them on the market, it's going to have some pressure on the price, and it's going to send it back a little bit. So I think that I don't think that has helped. I think, they just got to look to find what is reasonable growth and try to continue that. The big boom days are over.
Do you think at all that the lack of interest that technology has generated to the everyday ham and egger's need of using or learning how to build the fire from scratch and then keeping it has also contributed to the lack of interest in general into that sector?
Well, let's just say it, have pellet cookers replaced it because of the simplicity.
All right, let's say
and
that.
The technology friendly. Well, at the moment they have, for sure. You might have seen me playing with that Pro Q smoker the other day. Ian's an old friend of mine, and they're getting ready to sell more of them in the U.S. And so he sent me one to play with and post some stuff. And I smelled like smoke. I got all dirty. It was kind of fun.
Yeah.
It was a little different than what we do most days. Obviously, I'm not the best guy to answer this, though, because I told Shotgun Fred, that the barbecue guru was a really bad idea and nobody would buy that kind of technology. I really did. We used to laugh about it. I still do when I see Bob, because I was like, nobody's going to buy that, Fred. Obviously I was wrong. The bad part about not working for a grill company at the moment for me is they just keep accumulating in my backyard. I have one of those Loco kettles. So Loco has built a kettle with a barbecue guru, or whatever you want to call it, a temperature control device integrated into the thing. All you do is plug it in, and it's got a little dashboard, and you run it just kind of like you do a pellet cooker. It's really interesting to see the popularity of that. I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't know. Like you said, I like to get a little dirty and touch the fire and see what's going on with it. But clearly we're in the minority because this stuff is selling like crazy, and it probably has hurt the Kamados. They don't necessarily line up with that. I think they're doing fine. I think it's just watered down a little bit. And, it's the pellet grills moment, man. Those guys worked hard for a lot of years. Fast Eddie, this is his life's work coming to fruition. The pellet cookers were around for a long time before people figured out what they were. And, but I think their day will pass too. And then the next thing will come along.
What's going on with Fire Masters in this TV show?
Well, we're not shooting this year. The big shows like that. So it's been on 5-6 years, something like, probably longer than that. It doesn't seem like it, but so when we go there to shoot, we shoot 3 seasons, 30 episodes, 40 episodes. That's how they all do it now. Chopped shoots for months, and then they don't shoot for a few years. So I guess we've done 6 or 7 seasons now, but we're not shooting this year. But it's still on in Canada, primetime, Food Network. It's a big deal up there. And the Cooking Channel is running it right now. I was watching one the other day, but they just don't tell us because it's like the secondary market. And they might be first run in the U.S. for sure, but they just don't treat it like one of their shows. So it's kind of weird. I never know when I'm going to be on unless somebody calls me or I happen to run across it. But it's still a big deal,
I mean, it seems like they would want to tell you because they would leverage whatever social media you have to drive some traffic over there and put eyeballs on it.
You would think that, and Canada does. The PR company in Canada, unfortunately, we can't watch Food Network Canada here, even online, so it's pointless for me. I mean, I post stuff for my Canadian friends to see it, but it's, for me, it's not that impactful as it would be if it was actually airing here. It's a weird thing. I don't understand why they do it that way. It's kind of frustrating, frankly. But it's, it's interesting to see. I told you this on the side the other day. I ran into a couple of things recently where I'm not that big of a deal. And because I guess because I don't have a big social media following, I'm actually on a Food Network show right now. I'm on a bunch of old ones that they air all the time. And somehow that doesn't have the impact of 100,000 YouTube followers.
To that point, you made a post on for anybody that follows you that basically came out and said, hey, if you know anybody that's hiring, a very quick thumbnail sketch of the resume, thinking you can bring value to some companies that might be looking for your skill set outside of, whatever the soup du jour is of social media today, like you were talking about. First of all, is that a hard post for you to make? I mean, that takes a lot of sucking it up and putting it out there, right?
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, it's humbling to it's the way I've led my life. I've always, find that next thing. But it's been a weird 6 months of, normally I can find stuff to click. The same things I've always done are all of a sudden not working. And yeah, it was very humbling to do that. No question about it. I don't like to, admit that. And I'm okay. Don't misunderstand. I'm okay. I'm just frustrated, and I like to work. I like to work, and I like to make money, and I'm not doing either of those things right now, and that doesn't make me happy. So, I did that. And by the way, thank you to everyone who did respond. It was amazing the amount of people that said, "Hey, I just didn't know. Let's talk."
Is it hard to make because you're worried about what other folks, your friends or other peers in the industry are going to think when you make that post? Or is it just hard to make because you haven't had to cast lines in the water per se? I mean, certainly you're always hustling. As you said, you don't have the 401k. It's not the traditional 9 to 5. So somebody in your position, an entrepreneur, has to be hustling all the time in order to keep things going. Was it harder because that's now part of the hustle?
It is. I don't think like, the first part you said, will other people in the industry look at that and think something different of me? I don't care about that. That's not how I live my life. I don't worry about other people. Is it a little tough on your ego to have to go to Facebook and say, hey, by the way, here I am, remember me? I could use some work. It's hard to do, on many levels. Yeah. But it's okay. Again, that's what entrepreneurs do. You make it up as you go along. And I felt that was the right time and the right place to do that. And I got, like I said, I got some good reactions. So I think that I'm proud that I did it, because sometimes you got to suck it up.
What do you think the most under or non-well-known grill manufacturer is out there in the industry today? Somebody that's got great product that maybe is under the radar. I sure see a lot of them lately. It's really interesting. Back in the day, with Big Green Egg, we weren't a household name. And when we went to the trade shows, we were those guys over there with that weird little green grill. And so the dealers we were looking for were mom and pop dealers that didn't want to sell Weber, didn't want to sell, I don't know what the big box names were at the time, but that's not what they wanted. They wanted something different. They wanted something you could only get there. And it's changed so much. Every mom and pop store you go to now sells Traeger. Most of them sell Weber. They all sell Big Green Egg, even though Big Green Egg now is available at Ace, and they complain about it, but they still sell them. So it's really hard on these startups like that. Guy might have a cool idea. I remember Bobby, the Kamado Joe, the first time he showed up at a trade show, he had a 10x10 booth and like one unit. And there he was. He was going to be the Big Green Egg knockoff, and it worked out pretty well for him. But it took him to build. He needed to be the other version of that. And so I just don't see a lot of that anymore. The one grill that's interesting to me that I think is underloved and I think should have more life is the Weber Kamado, or whatever they call it. The charcoal Summit Kamado.
That thing's really nice. Do you have one of those? Have you ever picked up one of those?
But I've heard great reviews.
It's really nice. And I don't know, maybe it's just the profit's not there on that for them or something, because they've really kind of ignored it, which is interesting to me, because it's really a nice grill. It's a one unit, but like a company's, it's really hard for startup companies right now.
Where's the best place to go to get the rubs if people want to try them, Ray?
For now, drbarbecue.com, drbbq.com. We're working on getting them out there into the market, but it takes a while to get it out to all them stores. It's just easier to order it online.
Ray, it's been a minute. Last time we were going head-to-head on $200 pepper grinders, but we get it back into the live fire sector.
I still have mine. I still use it all the time.
Same with me. So, as I said, the one thing that we can guarantee, whether you think yours was better or mine was better, is that they both cost $150 or $200, and that we can agree on, no doubt about it. And, I've always appreciated the conversations over the years, Ray. The insight, the candor is unmatched, and so we wish you continued success. Let's do it again soon.
Well, thank you for the platform for all of us.
You got it. There he is, Ray Lampe. Coming on the 4th of July, you could hear the fireworks popping off in the background a little bit there, so hopefully you're not missing the finale, Ray, as you are getting ready to finish out the 4th. Remember, it's not Sunday, everybody. It's Tuesday. Work tomorrow. All right, we got to make a quick break here, so stand by.
Continuing to produce incredibly mediocre content in an exceptionally professional way. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show. Once again, here's your host, Greg Rempe.
And we thank Ray Lampe for joining us last segment, drbbq.com, if you want to check out what he's up to, or if you want to get your hands on some of those rubs that we were talking about earlier there in the first hour, or in the first segment that he was joining us, drbbq.com. We are just a shade over, so we'll make a quick exit out here, refresh your libations, and we'll see you back here for the second hour. You're listening and watching the Barbecue Central Show right here on the Barbecue Central Network. Stick around. We'll be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show.